Hi. I argue in my book that the rabbis who wrote the Talmud loved controversy. They loved it because they understood that it was the road to progress, that if there was no disagreement, we would be stuck in the same rut forever. One strong bit of evidence supporting this view is the fact that of the 24 books that constitute the Hebrew Bible, or the Tanakh, 5 of them were so controversial that they almost didn't make the cut. They were almost excluded from the roster of holy books. In no particular order, the first was Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a prophet whose oracles drew bizarre images, including a chariot of fire, that the rabbis were skeptical of because they thought this mysticism might lead people astray even into idolatry. So that book was certainly controversial. The second was the book of Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is an overt philosophical work that questions the very existence of the world. The writer looks at all the misery and pain and crushed dreams and frustrated desires and the moral chaos by which virtuous people die young, impoverished, and in misery, while evil rich people die old peacefully in their bed. So there was certainly cause for consideration about why this book might be excluded. The third was the book of Esther, which is the Purim story, and the rabbis were skeptical about this book because, number one, it reads like a farce or a burlesque, a work of entertainment rather than a serious work. And God is never mentioned once in this text, not once. So it raises the question about whether the Jews really need God. Maybe they can work miracles all by themselves and shouldn't rely on God so much. The fourth book is the Song of Songs, which is a book of love poetry between a female and a male figure that is quite erotic and filled with sexual allusions. And it seemed rather scandalous to the rabbis, even though they interpreted it to be the love story between God and the Jewish people. Even so, the female figure in this series of poems was just as aggressive and assertive as the male figure, which certainly might be troublesome. The final book that the rabbis had doubts about was the book of Proverbs. And the rabbis questioned this book because it seemed in many parts contradictory. There would be 2 proverbs set forth next to each other that were contradictory. It didn't seem that they could both be true. Now, the rabbis decided ultimately to include these books within the canon because they either edited them or interpreted them or attributed them to King Solomon so that they were somewhat sanitized. Nevertheless, the things that made these books controversial and that made the rabbis hesitate are still there and still easily identifiable. And so they're provocative, and they challenge us to work through these issues for ourselves to try to find for ourselves the satisfactory answers, which is why the Torah continues to be so important and so relevant to Jews even to this day. If you'd like to learn more about this subject, please check out my book, Come Now, Let Us Reason Together. Thank you.